Shout out to our sponsor, Movement Watches. Get multiple watches in one with bands you can switch out for a whole new look, because who needs to buy a whole new watch for every occasion? Get 15% off your entire purchase at mvmtwatches.com/theknow. Welcome to The Know, I'm Ashley Jenkins. As you'd expect from a game that is entirely online for both single player and multiplayer, For Honor launched yesterday with a handful of connectivity issues. Players have filled up Ubisoft's forums with a number of complaints about the game, mostly due to network problems or matchmaking failures. One of the weirder issues is that the game simply doesn't seem to like when players of different regions try and get together. It boots them all out of the game. How's that for global gaming audience? Thankfully, Ubisoft has posted a guide to get around some of the issues on their forums, and this should help fix quite a few PC issues in particular, plus some workarounds for specific error codes and what they mean. As for that really weird players from multiple regions glitch, well, for now, Ubisoft says don't play with people from other regions, so take that, multiculturalism. There were rumors everywhere last month that Horizon Zero Dawn's story had been leaked by a mock reviewer, and now, well, you may accidentally find out if those are true a little bit earlier than anticipated. It looks like Horizon Zero Dawn's street date has been broken by some retailers, with users posting on NeoGAF that they already have their hands on copies of the final game. So do yourself a favor, stay out of the early impressions threads if you want to stay spoiler free. It's risky out there. In other Horizon Zero Dawn news, Sony is already talking up the franchise potential of the new game. Speaking in an interview with MCV UK, Sony Interactive Entertainment product manager John Edwards said, "Nothing has been announced to date, but I think there's a lot of potential for this to be an exciting new franchise for us. We'll just have to wait and see." He also added that the company sees main character Aloy as a PlayStation icon of the future. Now, there's certainly a lot of confidence there, and considering that the game is going to get its reviews next week, which is more than a week ahead of the game's February 28th launch, Sony's certainly expecting a hit, and they're confident that everyone's going to say nice things about it. We've got Breath of the Wild coming out in just a few weeks as well. It's really close. It's like 2.5 weeks away. That's very close considering how long we've been waiting. But Nintendo is already hinting about more Zelda games to come. And thanks to the Switch's handheld capabilities, we might even see a 2D Zelda come to the new system. These comments came to light in an interview between Game Informer and Zelda lead Eiji Aonuma, who said that the 3DS Zelda team could be making new Zelda games for the Switch as well. And considering how great the 3DS Zelda games have been, like Link Between Worlds, pretty awesome, that's exciting. Now, when asked if the 3DS team could assist in development on the next game in the series to keep development from taking too long, Aonuma said, "The 3DS team and the Wii U team have different approaches to game development, so I don't necessarily want to combine them and have them think together, but rather have each think about what they can bring to Nintendo Switch from their own perspective." Game Informer asked if that means we could see a 2D Zelda game from that team on the Switch, to which Aonuma replied, "It's definitely a possibility. So let's get that Link Between Worlds sequel on the Switch, Nintendo, just make it happen." So good. Ubisoft patched Watch Dogs 2 with a free update this week that brought new dance emotes, which is very exciting, new locations, new clothes, but also slightly changed the game's ending. We won't get into all the spoilers for the ending or the new scene here, but it definitely drops some hints about where the franchise could be heading next in Watch Dogs 3, assuming Watch Dogs 2 sold enough to warrant a 3. Through clues provided in the new scene, users are left with a set of coordinates that correspond to a district in South London. So, hey, maybe next time you'll be free running politely all over London, between tea and crumpets. That's all British people do, right? Right? I know you hate that. It's not. Trust me, we know Gavin. We know that you guys aren't nearly that classy. So far, we don't know a whole lot about what Mass Effect Andromeda actually is, but BioWare is doing even more talking about what it isn't. Speaking with official Xbox magazine, producer Michael Gamble went out of his way to stress that Andromeda is not an open world game. Gamble said, "I definitely wouldn't call Andromeda an open world game. We like to use the term exploration-based game. You still have the concept of tight story deliverance and all the great things you come to expect with Mass Effect. Some fans seem to be a little bit disappointed by these comments, but the first games weren't exactly open world either, if you think about it. This seems like a measure on BioWare's part to try to get ahead of any kind of overhyping of the game, because that burned a couple of titles last year. One in particular shall remain nameless today. EA and BioWare are also providing media with an extensive hands-on of the game this week, so maybe we'll finally have our first substantive look at Mass Effect Andromeda. Finally, it's almost here. It'd be great to see it, although I also kind of like the mystery of having a little bit of an idea what I'm getting into, but getting to discover it all when I play. No, we'll see. Overwatch players have been howling about loot box drop rates for the new Year of the Rooster event skins, but Blizzard swears it hasn't messed with anything. Some websites are not buying it though. They've conducted their own analyses, and some have found changes to epic and legendary drops, according to Kotaku. But Overwatch game director Jeff Kaplan recently said that Blizzard hasn't tweaked loot box drop rates between events. The drop rates for Summer Games, Halloween Terror, Winter Wonderland, and Year of the Rooster are all the same, he wrote on Overwatch's forums. Of course, this could be resolved if Blizzard just releases the numbers behind its drop box rates, which China is actually forcing some companies to do. But meanwhile, in the West, we'll just have to wait and speculate. The proposed Apocalypse Now game is changing tactics when it comes to raising money. The game has been pretty slow to get traction on Kickstarter, only having raised about $172,000 of its $900,000 target with just 9 days left, which is a pretty good indication that it's not going to make it. So the developer has moved the campaign preemptively to its own crowdfunding site, apocalypsenow.com. The site describes the game as being like Fallout New Vegas on acid in Vietnam, which is, it draws imagery, and the new campaign is trying to raise $5.9 million because they were doing such a good job with a fraction of that, I guess. It says that, like with Kickstarter, backers won't be charged until the full amount has been raised. And so far, it's raised $62,000 according to IGN, so yeah, still a long way to go. Still looking for an NES Classic Edition? Well, you're not alone. It's still nearly impossible to find the $60 retro console 3 months after it's launched. Walmart even recently bundled the system with a low-end 32-inch TV for $180 to $190, and guess what? That sold out immediately. People bought a TV to get their hands on the NES Classic Mini. The systems are still selling on the secondary market, ranging anywhere from $100 to $150, and while Nintendo has continued to deliver additional systems, they keep selling out almost immediately. Last month, Nintendo of America President Reggie Fils-Aimé admitted Nintendo misjudged the market a little tiny bit, but claimed supply issues have been largely addressed, according to GameSpot. Yeah, except, I mean, they really haven't been if you still can't get them. Oh well, happy hunting, as long as you're not in the Nordic regions. Does Han Solo suck at flying? I mean, say it ain't so. He's supposed to be the best, even if he doesn't know what a parsec is. But apparently, Harrison Ford got in a little bit of hot water recently when he flew his private plane over a parked jet airliner at a Southern California airport. Ford was apparently told to land on a runway, but instead, he landed on a taxiway, and in doing so, passed right over a Boeing 737 that was carrying 110 passengers and 6 crew members. On a recording, Ford asked air traffic controllers, "Was that airliner meant to be underneath me?" According to NBC News. No one was injured, and the jet later took off without incident, so everyone is fine. It's all fine. We're all fine here. How are you? The FAA is now investigating, which could result in a simple warning letter to a suspension of Ford's pilot's license, NBC reports. So bit of a range there. Now, this isn't the first time that Ford, who is an experienced pilot who collects vintage planes, has been involved in a crash while flying aircraft. In 2015, he kind of, well, maybe a little bit, crash landed a World War II airplane on a Santa Monica, California golf course after the engine failed. So maybe next time, let Chewie take the controls. After 17 years, this one's really exciting to me. I don't know how many of you guys are book readers, but I love it. Philip Pullman has announced a sequel to his Dark Materials trilogy, and the first book is due out in October. The seminal trilogy started with The Golden Compass in 1997, or it was also called The Northern Lights, depending on where you read it, and it wrapped up with Amber Spyglass in the year 2000. But Pullman says a new sequel prequel equal trilogy. The Book of Dust is going to begin in October. Pullman says the new series isn't exactly a sequel. It's more of a parallel set of stories, a companion trilogy, as it were. As he wrote on his website, is it a sequel? It's neither. In fact, the Book of Dust is an equal. It doesn't stand before or after his Dark Materials, but beside it. And while the new books will tell a different story, Pullman says there are settings that readers of the original trilogy will recognize, as well as characters they've met before, as well as completely new ones, of course, as you'd expect with a new story. The new book will be released on October 17th, and then we can all be really excited about it, because if you look at the books, not the movie, which nobody really liked, it's really awesome. So hopefully he can pull together a companion series equally as good. But that's just me. Anyway, that's all the news we have for you guys today. Let me know what you think of all the stories down in the comments. And to make sure you get all kinds of news from every corner of the internet, like this video. And if you're new around here, you're just finding us, make sure you subscribe to the Now. Thanks to Movement Watches for sponsoring this update. Movement watches are made with versatility in mind because you don't want to buy a whole new watch for every occasion. This way, if you're wearing brown shoes, you just switch out your metal band, you get a brown leather band, and bam, it's basically a new watch. This is one of my favorites. It's got this pretty pearl face. I don't know if you can see it in the video, and I got a nice little, this is my lady watch. Got a baby blue band. Yeah, I've never had a leather band before. I always had the rubber plastic ones. Now I'm a grown-up. Watches start at $95, but you can get 15% off your entire purchase when you go to movementwatches.com/theknow. That's mvmtwatches.com/theknow.